How are you doing? Oh, that's great. Great to hear. Happy to hear that. That's wonderful. It is, it's, what is it, 43 degrees at 9:37 anti-meridian, and it is, whatchamacallit, sunny. It's actually a beautiful day. 43 degrees doesn't feel particularly unbearable like it sometimes does. I guess it must have to do with moisture in the air. I think actually that's what I read, is that sometimes a 35-degree day is not hard. Other times it's impossible to deal with. And, sometimes, you hear people say, oh, well, there's no humidity in Arizona. It's 120 degrees, but there's no humidity. And that's the saving grace, apparently. 120 degrees still sounds hot to me, but that's just me. I'd rather have that, though, than winter. Anyway, we're driving through Fairfield, Pennsylvania. It's a beautiful little town. Quiet, quaint. Actually, I don't know if it really is considered quaint. I think quaint is where like you have like a bustling downtown area with, shops that have things that nobody actually really needs to buy except rich people because they have the money, and they go, "Oh, that would be nice to have on the hutch in the living room." Um, I get that's my definition of quaint anyway. I don't know, but it's a cute little town. Some pretty nice houses here along the way. Which of course, in my second life, when I come back as a billionaire, I'll buy a few of them, and you know, live in this one on weeks that begin with an odd number, and live in this one when the weeks that begin with an even number, and then once a month I'll go out to my farm. Who knows? It's never going to happen anyway, so it's just a fantasy. We had a show last night. I think it. I just quickly glanced at it. I think it said it had like 1,500 views already. I think we had over 100 at the peak concurrent viewers last night, which is good. Something's changing. God knows what, because they don't tell you. But something's changing where we went from 50 live views to 100 or more in the last several uh, live streams. So that's nice. 3 hours long. Ralph's a talker. Ralph is a talker, and we knew this. I said to Cindy when I was leaving that morning, I said, don't expect to see me at a reasonable hour. I'll see you in the morning because we're doing a show with Ralph tonight. She said, say no more. Say no more. But we all love to hear Ralph talk, and I think that's why we don't rush him along, because we never know where Ralph is going to go. And so that's why we like having Ralph on. There's going to be more Ralph this year, ladies and gentlemen. We were talking after the show. He's going to be tag teaming it with Zach Fry in June, talking about Vincent's Brigade. And he's going to tag team it with our buddy Ken Gavin, talking about the Battle of Trenton. That'll be in July. July 22nd is the date there. So it's going to be a year of Gavin and Siegel, because they're on a lot of episodes, and Core. We've got more Rich Core coming out, and it's another Hessler. We got a Charlie Fennel coming down the pike. We got a bunch. Plus new stuff that you've never seen before, and after you see it, you'll probably think, I didn't need to see that at all. But it's going to come out for you anyway. All right, let's see who's here with us today. Dundrum K, good morning, Barbara. Sorry, Barbara. Can't say Babra. Kevin, good morning. Rocco, good morning to you. Dustin, buenos dias. Ron, hey Ron, how you been? Great program last night with Ralph. Thank you very much, Ron. Wonder Monkey says, Ralph sounded like Court to me. Poor Court. And we blame Tad for this. Court had it all. He was all excited. He goes, I'm going to do my Ralph impression what do I need to wear in order to complete the look? So I told him, and he said, I'm going to shave my beard into a goatee. And I said, okay, you can use the glasses that came with the Santa Claus costume. And I'll introduce Ralph, but it'll be you first. Of course, I forgot to tell Tad this. And Tad, instead of watching me, I was giving the cue of pointing to my right before I actually said the name. I said, here's Ralph. I pointed to Court. Court started talking, and the camera's on Ralph, who's not talking, which I guess maybe that kind of worked because it's like, look who's talking type of a thing. But either way, that's the beauty of doing it live. And that's the beauty of doing it live after working 6 hours straight on other stuff and going right into something else. We call it flying by the seats of our pants. That's how we like to do it here. Someday, I hope that'll change for good. But until then, that's just what we have to accept. Good morning, 6 questions. And yeah, 6 questions. I was actually shocked that you asked a question that you did not have an answer to. And this, ladies and gentlemen, goes to show us that, yes, indeed, Michael 6 Questions Lentz is human after all. A lot of us think he's Superman because of that steel trap of a brain of his, with all the knowledge that he keeps in there and its ability to analyze. That's something I was talking with somebody the other day about guides, right? And what makes the difference between a guide that people know and a guide that people don't know? And there's obviously a lot of things that go into that. But I think the one thing that all the known guides have in common is they're not afraid. Well, they're able to, and then they're not afraid to share an analysis, an opinion, and a conclusion. Because I think, and we kind of touched on this last night, sort of, we want everything to be neat. We want everything to be wrapped up in a nice, pretty bow so it's easy for us to understand and remember and all that other stuff. But as Ralph pointed out last night, when this is all occurring, it's kind of fly by the seat of your pants in many ways. You've got your plan, you got your strategy, but the enemy has a say. And so you have to be able to think on your feet. And you have to be able to pull from wherever you can. And and so to me, that leaves things open to interpretation. I think that's why the park calls the guides the rangers that you interact with interpretive rangers. They don't call them absolutist rangers because there are no absolutes in this stuff. Well, except, that guy absolutely was killed. Okay, we know that. But as far as why and how many, there's a lot of things that are up in the air. And we agree, or historians agree on something when some new work comes out, and then that becomes the new story, the new narrative, until it doesn't any longer hold water and something else comes along. And as I keep saying this, like I love this time. Not that this didn't occur in previous eras, but I love the era that we're in, whatever it is. There's a lot of things to complain about for sure, but the good stuff coming out of it is that our historians today are taking a different look at things. And I hear some people say they want to rewrite American history because they want to denigrate the country. Okay, I'm sure that exists, right? Because nothing is all and nothing is all not, or whatever. So, sure, that exists somewhere, right? There are historians who, unrelated to their histories, travels, perhaps have a little self-hatred, and it extends to their country, and now they want to go into the history field to find all the things to hate about it and then write a book or incorporate it in their class and share that. Sure, I'm sure that's true. Just like it's true where there's plenty, perhaps even more, who can put their feelings aside and be neutral and take a balanced look at our past. And I think that's on the whole where we are right now, where people are taking a fresh and balanced look at our past, our Civil War, especially. And I think it's so important that Civil War history, probably more than any other, needs to be revisited. And I don't say this in the bad way, but revised, like what it really is. Like, revise it because you find out new information or because someone views that information with a different set of eyes and can put maybe a different perspective on it to make you think. Like Troy Harmon, for example, he's written some books and, they get some flack. But I love having Troy on to talk about his books because he makes you think a different way. He shows you that there are different ways to approach things. And I, for one, am just bored with the way things have been done. And I don't do this because you hear some people that go and criticize the way everybody's doing stuff, and I can't stand the phrase "doing history." I don't even know what that means. Doing history, like I don't get it, but whatever. Um, in the exploration of our history, I am just tired of the same old formats. And everybody does it. So we're all guilty of it, right? That's why with our Get Out of the Car tours this year, we've kind of changed it from the traditional tour guide leads big group of people, half of whom are on their phones and kind of talking in little cliques in the back of the group, and instead we're going to do shorter tours, and the guide is more of an instructor or a teacher. Think of it like a master class where we're just kind of sitting around or standing around, as it were, and discussing a topic where that topic took place, where that event took place, and exploring it and building off of each other's ideas, considering their take on things. Do we agree with that? Do we not agree with that? Oh, wait, I don't agree with that, and here's why. And then you politely share your reason as to why you disagree, because, well, there's this piece of information that your theory neglects and I think changes it, and then there you go, and that's how it works. And we only could that's only possible for us to do that because the people that regularly come to our events are genuinely a nice, good group of people, or a nice group, good people who really love learning about all of this stuff and sharing it with each other, but also with new people. So if you're thinking of coming out to our Get Out of the Car tours this year, and you might have had some thoughts where it's, well, I'm not really that knowledgeable, so I don't think I'll go this year because I can't partake in a discussion. You're exactly the person who needs to come to these tours. And I think you will find that the people who you will be there with you are not going to make you feel inferior in any way. They're, in fact, probably going to, at least virtually or figuratively, put their arms around you, pull you in, and say, all right, let's understand this. Let's figure this out together. And that's who this group of people is. And so I do hope you come out and learn a little bit more with some people who are willing to help you learn it. All right, we're going to make a right here today. What was that? What the hell did I just say? I love how I get on these rants and then at the end of it, I go, why the F did I even start with that? But regardless, that's what it is. I've said my piece on that matter or those matters or whatever. Oh, God, I missed a lot of comments there. Let's see. Matt Gillespie, thank you for the coffee, sir. Good morning, Ken. Six Questions says, I miss Troy Harmon. His battle walks and lectures always made me think and reassess what I knew about the battle. Yeah, yeah, I miss him too. I love Troy. Troy and I would have, so when he would come on and do the show or something, either before or after, sometimes both, we would just have the greatest conversations. He is, I can't say enough good things about Troy. He was, he is, I said was, but he, he retired. He's alive still. He is one of the nicest, kind-hearted people, most kind-hearted people I've ever known, and you can have a really genuine conversation with him. And yeah, I'll have to get back in touch with him and see if he'd like to come back on and talk about something. Let's see here. And by the way, just a reminder to everybody, I know we brought Mikey B in as third chair on the Ask Guides, and Cord fills in for him when Mike's been sick. So he's been sick and in England for a month prior to that, which means he's sick in the head, leaving us for an entire month, you know, handicapped like that. But um, what was I saying? Oh, yeah. So I know we have that third chair stuff, but we can always kick them out of their third chair if you're a patron and you have something that, I don't know, for whatever reason. If you wanted to just sit in on a show, a lot of people come in and sit in the back, and that's you're all the patrons are welcome to do that when they're in town. Um, but that's also open to you to sit in on the show. But the only caveat is that you have to actually be able to contribute. You can't just sit in the room and take up a microphone and not talk. Like, you got to contribute. Like, for example, Jeff Pasnick came on and talked about baseball with Mikey B as host and Louis Trott as the expert. Um, so you can do it in that capacity, or you can do it as kind of like maybe a co-host with me if you want to ask questions along with me or whatever. Um, Whatever you'd like to do, whatever you'd like to do, that's open to you as patrons. um, I guess we'll say any level, right? That's like it's a unwritten rule there. Only trick is you got to be here on a Wednesday. Sometimes that happens. Matt Gillespie says, you're right, Matt. The lost cause myth is so ingrained in Civil War, it needs to be interpreted better. Yeah, I know. And I'm also kind of getting this. I was talking with Ken Gavin the other day. We had a brief conversation regarding his tavern talk and a couple of other things. But then, I told him, I said, Ken, from doing these shows with you, I'm really becoming more interested in the revolution. And if I ever have time to read, I'll crack open a book about it. And uh, I said, what I particularly like about it is that, what I remember learning as a kid about the American Revolution is almost biblical, in the sense that I always got the feeling that we were talking about mythical creatures, mythical beings, people who perform miracles. Like it almost seems in retrospect, not at the time. At the time, I bought it hook, line, and sinker, but in retrospect, it seems like I was being taught parables. Like, they weren't really what happened, but here's the moral that we want you as a good American to embody, right? And okay, I get that. It was the bicentennial and Cold War, and maybe we had to be lied to. I don't know. I wasn't around. But I just remember there being this kind of aura around the revolution that made it seem otherworldly to me. But then when I talk to Ken and I find out, like, Valley Forge, yes, it was bad. Yes, there were deaths. Yes, there was disease. But it wasn't quite what we were taught, which is what we talk about in the Tavern Talk. And that's what I love. I don't want to be taught a myth. Like, I grew up thinking that people in the Soviet Union were lied to by the government and they had to believe lies and myths, or people over in North Korea, right? You hear the shit that they believe, and we're like, what the hell? But how do we know it's not that much different over here? And I think the lost cause, and even maybe the way we looked at the revolution, might be good examples of how, not that we're lied to, but we're just misled. Um, and there's a little propaganda mixed in with our history. And so I love these historians that are kind of just coming in and saying, yeah, but. And so anytime I find a historian like that, I'm like, come on my show and let's talk about that. I don't think it's supposed to be comfortable to learn about our history, anybody's history. It's a human story. It's ugly. Humans are ugly. I mean, think of our lovely mayor was just charged with, I think, 4 more felonies or something like that. More felonies, let's just say that. I don't remember how many. But now these are getting bad, and these are with other victims, and more probably coming out of the woodwork. And from what I read in the paper, I can tell that my source who told me that this was happening a month ago was correct. And so now I'm pretty confident they're going to see some more. They found him in Texas. That's where his family is. There's some pretty shitty, ugly people. There's still people here in town who defend him and call into question the people who are grossed out by his behavior. That's pretty shitty. Like, what about the victims? So my point is, history's ugly because people are ugly. And if you want the comfortable the comfortable, warm, fuzzy stories, everywhere else will give that to you. But we will not. We will try to give it to you, good and bad. And and I don't say this as like somebody's trying to put everything down. I don't. I look at all the bad stuff, and then I look at the good stuff that defeated the bad stuff. And then I'm proud of, let's say, our country for righting the wrongs, not ashamed of it because we had the wrongs. Because I think wrong is the default human position. And it takes generations and a lot of hard work and sacrifice to turn that around to a better way. And so I look at our history as a story of triumph over evil. And it's still not good. But that's because we're human beings. We'll never be good. So I don't know. So we'll do good, bad, and ugly. Fun. We're gonna keep it fun still, but not goofy. I was talking to Doug Dowds about something that we're working on, and he seemed to really like the idea, and he's like, "All right, okay, we're gonna do it." He goes, "But it can't be goofy." And I was like, "Doug, how little you think of me." And I said, "No, I understand. I don't want it to be goofy. There will be no song parodies. There will be nothing like that." I said, "However, we're not going to act like we don't have a sense of humor, and it's going to be appropriately applied, and it is going to be self-deprecating at all times." And he's like, "Okay." So we'll still be fun. I know a lot of people hate that, and I think that's great. Barbara is here, but not chatty. Not yet, anyway. Good morning, Tim. I'm sorry, I'm very behind on the comments. Jennifer, hello. Good morning to you. Man, I got a bad glare here. I can't see. David says Troy Stories always presented me with a different way of thinking about something. Yeah, yeah. History at a higher level. That's right, Kevin. That's what Troy always used to say. At a higher level. It is. It's very hard to do. To like to this day, I'll hear a story that I've never heard before, right? And something about it will move me, and I'll get that like flutter in my chest. I'm like, oh, when you hear like a really cool story and you're swept up in it, and I'm like, oh, wow. And then I go, okay, well, wait a minute. And then I don't know, depending on what it is, I'll start asking questions, kind of picking it apart, not trying to debunk it, but trying to figure out. I mean, if it's a Civil War story, for example, um, I might try to figure out like where the story comes from, like when the story comes from, and if there's lost causery mixed in there, and it's you got to think of it and then break it apart. As opposed to just accepting things with one swallow and moving on. Kind of like how I eat a pizza, just one swallow, and then I go on to the next slice. Sort of like that. I wish I had a grill at the studio because I'm really sick of eating pizza. It was very refreshing to have protein when Bob bought that dinner at the Dobbin House, but I can't keep buying people Dobbin House dinners every other week. That's cray cray. Um, and so yeah, I guess I could order a salad from the pizza place. I probably should. Probably should. Or bring something from home and just make the pizza for the crew. Maybe I'll do that. Easier said than done. Good morning, Freedom. We can see. Good morning from the Shenandoah Valley. And member of the Sons of Confederate Veterans CSA. Shenandoah Valley, one of the most beautiful places on the earth. It's I love driving through there. I got to get down there again. I haven't been there in a while. Kevin says, back the old days when Troy was new at the park, I sometimes enjoyed having some beers at Farnsworth with him and Tom Holbrook. There's another one that was great. That was before he got married. Dr. James says, I talk about doing history with kids quite a bit. It's getting kids to sort of act like historians and engaging with primary sources doing research. I get what you're saying. I'm talking about when people in the social media sphere use it regarding our content. But I guess it's kind of the same thing, but not. I get what you're saying. That's not what I was critical of. I should have been more clear of that. Ken says hello to Tim. Tim says, hey, Ken, heading down tomorrow. Don Mai. Good morning, Getty's Nerds. Good morning, John. Kevin says, Matt, that Steiger session last night was a marathon, but, Siegel. You meant Siegel. But about the best I've watched in a few years on AG. Ralph is so thorough and well prepared, a very knowledgeable guy. Yeah, he is. I like having Ralph on. It was long. Ralph does go long. I don't think he understands time. I think that's what that is. Or he doesn't care. That might be more what it is. He's like, I don't care. There's a story to be told. I don't care if it takes me 3 hours or 3 minutes. I'm telling the story. I believe a lot of history is oversimplified to be more easily understood and remembered, especially the American Revolution. I agree, Matt. It is. And it has to be, right? It has to be in school. It has to be in a 30-second short on YouTube or something like that. But that doesn't mean that longer content shouldn't be made and viewed and consumed, where it is kind of parsed a little more, with just curiosity, like not to prove anything right or prove anything wrong, but to understand. Um, that's all. That's all I'm trying to do is understand. I just want to understand my country's story, and I want to understand how we became the bag of jackasses that we are today. Um, how did we get here? Were we ever so wonderful as we like to often think previous generations were? The greatest generation, for example. Well, I don't know. Like I saw a video the other day where, like, statistically they broke down some stuff, and I don't know how great. I don't know how great. And my grandfathers, you know, then great uncles fought in the war. They were uh, part of that generation. So I'm questioning whether that moniker belongs to even those who I love and knew and thought were great, but they were human at the end of the day. So I don't know. Like I wonder, are we really so bad today, or do we just see it more? But 50 years ago, even 25 years ago, you didn't see it as much because the internet wasn't as ubiquitous as it is today, and all the social media bullshit wasn't around, and so were we always terrible? I think we were. We just didn't see it. We didn't hear about it, and it was you hid it more. You weren't proud to be stupid. You weren't proud to be an asshole. But now the internet shows us that there's plenty of people who are very proud to be stupid and very proud to be assholes. And some of you just said, "Yeah, you're one of them," and you're goddamn right. Yeah, Mikey, you raised a good point there that the notion that a common historical narrative is critical to the formation of a national identity, and it leads to oversimplified history. Yeah, you've got to do it. You've got to do it for those reasons. Those are important things to do. But there should be a point where you go, okay, yeah, but, and here is the rest of the story. Kevin, you used to eat pizza like that long ago too. It's so good. Nothing like a fresh, hot, out of the oven slice of pizza, greasy, gooey cheese, delicious, tangy sauce, not that sweet shit, and just slurping it down like a pig, like a big pig. It's wonderful. Justin says, I'll buy you a job in house when in town in a couple of weeks. Oh, you don't need to do that, Dustin. Thank you. That's very nice of you. I'm just saying that I enjoyed eating protein instead of grease and carbs and calcium. Like, it was nice to have something wholesome for dinner with the crew. No, I'm just I say lazy, but the reality of it is I am a terrible manager of my time. And when I don't have something to do on the schedule, I that's my opportunity to clear my head and let my mind go. And so I sit and I stare at something mindless for a while. When I should be, for example, I've got, let's see, one, two, three, four, five, six, seven steaks of various cuts, dry brining in the fridge. I should prepare some of them at least, slice them up, put them in a container, and bring that into work with me when I have my lunch. Instead, I just eat beef jerky. Why can't I do that with the stuff I have? Because I don't manage my free time well. Because I want to de-stress. I recently got blood work done, everything is fine except my cortisol level is pinned to the top of the whatchamacallit, the scale, the meter there. And the doctor was like, she's like, there's nothing I can do to help you with that. You have to do that yourself. And I was like, well, then I'm gonna die because I can't do that. I just cannot stop worrying. I cannot stop thinking about work. And yeah, there's meditation. Kiss my ass. That's my meditation. I don't know what that means. Um, Even the things that I guess I used to do that I guess are a form of meditation, like play music or paint or something like that. They don't do it for me anymore. I'm so bundled up that I can't compartmentalize anymore and say, okay, work is over here, and now this is me time. This is relaxation time. I'm gonna paint, or I'm gonna play the piano, or whatever, and I'm going to lose myself in it. I can't do that anymore, and it sucks because that was kind of my way of clearing things out. That was emptying the recycling bin for me. And so, what was the? Why did I bring this up? Well, whatever. I don't remember. Anyway, I said my piece on that one. Oh yeah, steak. Hartshorn. I have had thoughts of that. I was actually just talking with Darren about that the other day. Um, they already do the cigar thing, and yeah, I mean a cigar club. I guess anybody can do that. There's plenty of people that do that, and they're all in the same field. But having like a cigar itself, um, I don't want to. I don't want to do like it. It would annoy me if somebody else, another podcast, came along and had their own coffee. Um, Not that they couldn't. Not that I own the coffee market. It's just like, all right, come on, like find your own thing. And so I was saying to Darren, I was like, yeah, I was going to do the cigar thing, but then I saw, or then learning that he has one because he mentioned it because somebody was criticizing him for having for selling cigars. And may I say to people, this was one of these doing history people, enjoy your hobby because that's all it'll ever be if you have that attitude where, because Darren and Mare have a cigar line, or because I have a coffee, or we have t-shirts, and we have things like that. Learn to recognize the world that you live in, not the world that you want it to be again. Because the world we live in now, unfortunately, and Hessler and I were talking about this the other day, it makes us sick, all the social media shit you got to do. Like it does sicken me to have to like you notice how like I don't do these where I'm walking around showing you my face because it to me, believe it or not, and I think if you look at the full body of work and you listen to what I actually say, I think you will agree that this is what I'm trying to do is really it's not about me. It's not about me uh, exploring. It's about showing you what I'm seeing without me in it, right? And God bless everybody who does it that way. That is a way that works online. And this is my point. We have to compete in the online vicious evil world. And in order to do that, you have to have a lot of irons in the fire. You have to have a presence everywhere, and you have to work those presences everywhere. And you what is the format that works for history content? Holding my camera at arm's length, looking into it as I walk around somewhere, and then cutting in B roll of that ground. I'm all for the B roll of the ground. I don't really think my face is relevant. I don't think I'm relevant to this. The story is what's relevant. But that's what people like to watch. Why? I don't know. I prefer not to. But a vast majority of people that consume this stuff like to watch that stuff. So you have to do it. You've got to, unfortunately, make it at least seem like it's about you. And that's what we hate. And believe it or not, like Jim Hessler and I were both like, yeah, I hate that that's the way this is. Because we just would like to just talk about the stories. We'd like to talk about the history. That's what we like. That's what's interesting. That's what we want to explore. Um, and you might actually call bullshit on that, because Jim and I tend to make it look like we're full of ourselves, but that's more of an act than anything. I think uh, we both kind of acknowledge that, like, it's kind of a put on. We're actually, I mean, I know, for speaking for myself, like, ugh, I want nothing to do with myself. So, and I don't know if Jim's that extreme about himself, but yeah, he's not. The cocky swagger and everything, like, that's what we're putting that on. Like, that whole thing is to have fun with everybody. So yeah. So I'm going to say hi and can't wait to be in Gettysburg Sunday. Totem pole, ask a guide will be can't miss, and the after party will be even better. It'll be off the hook. It'll be off the hook. I hope I can stay awake to 6:30 maybe or so. Um, Gets past my bedtime. Morning, I play Dennis Leary's "I'm an Asshole" and I walk into work. There you go, classic song. That is why there's such a pushback when nuance and context is added to historical interpretation. It threatens how people see themselves, but history needs to be challenged and interpreted. Yeah, yes, can't add anything to that. Did they move the Stewart Monument? No, no, no. The Jeb Stewart Monument is right there, sir. Right there. Six, excellent intuitive insight. Agree with you. Valerie says, I enjoyed the Ask a Guide last night. Matt Gillespie says, good morning, Wonder Monkey. ADHD is a real thing. I hate when I lose track of my thoughts. Yeah, it is a real thing, and I do too. Little ground top for life, word. Kevin says, Jeffrey, that condition is one that's going to get worse before it gets better. Tell me about it, man. I would say you're part of the product being unique and enjoyable. Thank you, but I don't. I'm glad that's what you think. Um, but the older I get, the less I care about. I mean, look, does that make me feel good that you say that? Of course it does. Is it nice when somebody stops you on the street and says, "I love what you do"? Of course it's nice. Um, but that was the world to me when I was 25. Now I just want to see the story being told. I want to see good ideas happen. And if I can be the one that brings them to you, great. If I can't, if it's good, it's good. You gotta recognize game where you see it. And but there's all sometimes, yeah, there's a tinge of me going, oh, I wish I thought of that, or oh, I had thought of that, but I didn't do anything. And this guy had the same idea and did it, and look how good it came out. And then, if you really think about it, I go, you know what? It's probably best that he's the one who did it, because I don't think I could have done it that well. So that's kind of where I am now. Like, uh, everything's a shade of gray, which is a great Billy Joel song, by the way, Shades of Gray. And that's kind of how I feel right now. Kevin says, Matt, video kill the radio star. Deja vu. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Babra says, wow, or no, sorry. Kevin says, Babra, wow, I got very chatty here, enough for both of us. And Matt Gillespie finishes us off with, Matt, I think you're doing a better job than you give yourself credit for. Thank you, Matt. I I realized the other day that I could cure cancer, and I will never give myself credit for doing anything good. And that is just something I'm going to have to live with and work on for the rest of my life. But that is what it is. And I don't know where that comes from. If I could figure that out, I'd be able to undo it. Come on, folks. Bayonet that like button, says Don. Thank you, Don. Gene, according to Kevin, good thing the drives are archived. That is true. That is true. We'll get a comment now saying, you said Babra, and why did you pronounce archived? Archived. And Babra says, yeah, Kevin, you've been vocal today, and you have not, Babra, and we miss you. We miss your snark, your snot, and your snide comments. But some days we're chatty, some days we're not. Today I'm particularly chatty. It's coming out rather easily, whereas other days I have to force it. So most days I have to force it. No problem being humble, Matt. See, I don't know if you're being sarcastic, Babber, right now, or if are you talking about you, or are you talking about me? Um, I don't know. I don't know. But either way, I'm going to get a coffee and then I got to go let Tad in so he can start working. So you guys have yourselves a great day. And I will talk to you later. See you on Sunday. Maybe I'll do a live stream from our dress rehearsal tonight. It's not really, well, it's everything tonight. It's all the rehearsals and a dress rehearsal all in one. Technical rehearsal, the whole thing. It's all, maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll just do it on Patreon. I don't know. I don't know what the service is like out there. We'll find out. See you later.